Hi, thanks for tuning in again today. Welcome back to the channel. I want to talk about fuel today, and particularly E10, ethanol in our fuel. Um, right off the hop, not a fuel expert at all, don't claim to be one, but this whole ethanol thing, if you're watching from somewhere else around the world, that's you're already dealing with it, like US and Europe. I've seen, I'm trying to remember the country where they have 25% ethanol. At any rate, here in Canada, it is federally regulated now that we have 10% ethanol in all our fuel blends. So our 87, 89, 90, 94, whatever, all of our car fuel now it has ethanol in it up to 10%. Now, there may be some pockets apparently where that's not the case, but I take it as if I'm going to buy some 91 fuel right now, I'm going to just consider there's no doubt at all that it has ethanol in it until proven otherwise. Now, I have a pilot I was talking to just the other day, which is why I decided I should do this video, who insists that the fuel that he purchased, because it doesn't say 10% on the 91 button that you push on the pump, that it has no ethanol. I said, well, how do you know? He said, well, I went inside and I asked, and they said, no, it doesn't. Well, okay. I don't know. I kind of make that as like when you go to a restaurant and you got a food allergy and you ask, does it have whatever? And they go, yeah, I don't think so. So for me, not good enough. What's the issue? The issue is there's a lot of airplanes in ultralights and amateur builts and all these other airplanes in Canada that have fiberglass fuel tanks. That's a big issue because ethanol is a fantastic solvent. If you have been running pure 91 or neat 91 in your airplane all these years and there's a little bit of gunge inside the fuel tank, it'll take it right off instantly. It's amazing the cleaning and solvent action it has. However, the issue now is with fiberglass, the resin that they put the fiberglass fuel tank together with, you can eat that as well. And I've seen one case already where they're going to do some fuel samples, but as far as I'm concerned, that's exactly what happened to it, and it ruined the engine. So we really need to be aware, and I think that we need to have a method to test this fuel so that if we think that it doesn't have ethanol in it, well, now I can prove it. Or does it? So I think we need to really be testing our fuel now more than we ever did before. Now, we've all seen these little testers. There's one on the screwdriver. I don't have it with me. It's in the airplane. The fuel sampler where you can check the percentage of ethanol right on it. Well, I've always checked it for years to make sure that my 91 fuel didn't have any ethanol in it. Well, since I consider it all to have it now, I don't think I'll be using this much anymore other than to see what the percentage if it's higher. What I'm using now is this little test that I was working on it yesterday, and I went, oh, this is so cool. I got to make a video on this so that you could also, if you want to, test your fuel, and you're bound to determine it has no ethanol. With this little test, you'll find out whether it has it or it doesn't. And it also shows up water, which is very important. Ethanol fuel can only hold 5% by volume of water before it separates out. So we have the gasoline and then we have the watery goo in the bottom. But as long as it's not contaminated with water, then the ethanol is all mixed amongst the gasolina and you can't see it at all. So anyway, without further ado, let's get to this testing part here. It's pretty cool. So stay tuned. This is not like all of these other videos on the net. There's millions of them out there, how to do this, test fuel and everything else. I think you'll find this a little bit different. So let's have a look and see what I did. So I've got two examples here, and this is our E10. And this is what I call the neat fuel, or with no ethanol in it. So the things that we noticed about this is, and I noticed as soon as I started buying the 91, I went, whoa, it's like clear. It used to have a bit of an amber color to it. So we can really visually see the difference in it. So I think that's one. I mean, I noticed that right away. It was a different color. Anyway, so now to move on with the test here. So I'm going to take these little small mason jars, hold 80 milliliters of fuel right to this line. So this way I get my ratios correct when I do this testing. So let me put some, there we go, get 80 mils in there within a mil or two. Okay, so E10. Get the lid back on. Oh, and of course, we can shake it up and we can do everything we want with it. Nothing changes. It's still that kind of a clear. Okay, so let me take the lid off again. And let me put 1 drop of this fluid in here. And okay, so 1 drop. 1 drop. All right, so let's put the lid back on. So I've got our pure E10 and 1 drop. Shake it up. And whoops, what do we see now? It is all has a yellow tinge to it. So we'll put the two together and it's more yellow. Whoops, got my arm in the way. See, it's more yellow. So but it's everywhere through the whole sample. So that to me says that this is definitely has ethanol in it and it's fresh and not separated. Okay, because my drop of liquid that I put in, and we'll go over that after what it is all through the whole sample. It's not separated or settled out at all. Okay, so let's put that one aside. Then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to use the same out of here, some E10. And there we go. And this time what I want to do is, now remember I said when it has a little bit of water in it, so 4 milliliters would be completely separated, which we'll do next. And this is just going to have a bit of water in it. So it's going to be 2 milliliters of water. So let me get my 2 mils of water and get the air out. Okay, 2 mils of water. Let's put this in here and so that has some water in it, but not enough. It only has half of what it would take to contaminate it. So let's mix it up. And what do we see right away when we mix it up is now it's cloudy. I don't know, hopefully you can see that. It's kind of cloudy, right? Okay, so let's put a drop of yellow in it and see what happens. 1 drop. Okay, and then, oh, well, that's the end of that sample. All right, let me clean up the mess. I'll be right back. All right, well, that made a good mess. Apparently you need to be doing this as well in a well-ventilated area. That's the lid for that. Here's our E10. Okay, so let's see, where do we go? Let's just start again with this whole one here. No, we already did that part. Okay, we'll start again. And here's our E10, just another sample. We'll shake it up. Nothing changes. It's very clear, or what I call clear. So let's get to the part where I made the big mess. And Now, 5% will separate the fuel, so I'm putting in half of that. So it should be able to hold this water without ruining the sample, but let's find out. Okay, so I put that in. So now what we've got is we've got E10 with a little bit of water in it. And let's shake it up and see what we get. Well, look at that. We can visually see that the difference there, right? We can visually see the difference in the two samples. Here's our already shaken E10 with our yellow in it, and we can see it's still, you can still see through it clearly, and this is quite cloudy. Okay, now let's introduce now, without making a big spill like I did last time. Let's put 1 drop of our special liquid in there. 1 drop, okay. Then we'll cap this up again. So now we've got an E10 sample that has 2.5% of water in it, and now it has our yellow in it. Let's shake it. And of course now it's cloudy and it's all yellow. So do we see anything in the bottom? Whoops. Look at that. You can already see the water in the bottom. You see the separation right there? Let's see, where am I looking at on the camera here so you can get a good view. Yeah, you can see the yellow on it, right? You can see the yellow in it right there. And the longer it sits, the more it's going to separate out. So that's going to show that although the fuel isn't fully contaminated with water, which would be, as I'm told, 5% by volume, that picks up that water. Now let's go a little bit further and let's find out. So here we're going to do some E10 again, because we're not working with any mixed fuel right now. And let's fill it up to the line, which is going to be approximately 80 mils. Come on, there we go. Okay, that lid's for there. Now let's put 5% in it. So 5% of water is going to be 4 milliliters. Come on, the big air bubble in there. Okay, 4 mils. Okay, so there's 4 mils. So let's put the whole 4 mils into here, into our 80 milliliters, and shake it up. So this is actually now completely saturated. So let's shake it up and see what we get. And it's cloudy again, right? Really cloudy. And we could wait and let it settle more if we want. We'll start to see the separation in the bottom, but it's so much easier to see it with this special yellow liquid in it. 1 drop. There we go. Put the lid on. Shake it. Of course, it turns a little bit yellow. And I don't think we'll have to wait too long before, we can also already see it getting lighter there and more yellow in the bottom. And it's already formed already. See the amount of water that it showed up instantly? Isn't that cool? I thought that was really neat. So I originally started this because I want to see, does it have alcohol or not? And kind of carried on with this. And you can see, actually, one of these olive jars is much better. It's much more clear, but I'm just running out of them. So at any rate, there's all our water in the bottom that's all nicely colored. And the fuel on top is still a little bit cloudy. All right, so now let's find out what happens when we have some neat fuel. Now this will be what I originally started out as. So this is going to be, if you think you're getting pure fuel, pure 91 or what, yeah, pure 91, or any kind of gasoline with no ethanol in it. So we're going to go up to our 80 mil line. So there's our neat sample. Okay, so no ethanol in that apparently, but how do we know for sure? Check this out. This I thought was really cool. So we're going to put 1 drop of yellow in. No, actually, you're going to not be able to see that. So I'm going to use red because the yellow you won't see because the fuel's kind of yellow already. So let's use some of the red. 1 drop. There we go, 1 drop. Now, I'm just going to move the camera so you can actually see. No, I'm going to shake it first, and then we'll do this. Okay, so here it is. 1 drop. It's red just for the effect of being a different color. Shake it all up. The color really hasn't changed, and I don't know if you can see it. There's just a little bit of red sort of in the bottom. So what I'm going to do now is let's take the top off. So why didn't it change color? I don't know. Well, let me see why. And it's all gathered up in the bottom there. So, all right. So we should be able to see, move this without shutting it off. Okay. So see in the bottom corner down there, that 1 drop will reform itself. It hasn't blended or mixed with the fuel whatsoever. So if I was testing this fuel, I want to know, does it have alcohol or not? No, it does not, because the red drop didn't mix with the fuel at all. It's just sitting there. And like I said, if over time, it'll end up going right back and it'll just become a drop again. So is that cool or what? So now, what did we discover? Okay, well, I think I'm getting pure fuel at the gas pump. You can prove it right there. Or I think I'm getting pure fuel at the gas pump, only the yellow turned it yellow, which means it has ethanol in it. Okay, now I used the red for mixed fuel, so I'm going to do the mixed fuel next, and just so you'll see the difference in it. So I've switched all of my fuel samples over, and they're all E10 50-to-1 mix. So I have them all in here. Nothing is in them yet. So as I said, I like the red better for the mixed because if there's a color change, it's easier to see. So here is our E10, or maybe it's not. How do we know? Well, let's find out. 1 drop of red in here. There we go. And now if this was pure fuel or neat fuel with no ethanol in it, that little drop will sit in the corner just like that drop that was in our plain neat sample. See, it's reforming into a drop. It won't mix with the fuel at all. So that indicates to me that's pure. Okay, so now here's the same test with this one. The only difference got oil in it. So let's shake it up. Okay, so what do we see? Well, it turned purple, which is fine, but I can still, it's still pretty clear. Whoops, get it wherever the camera is here. So I don't see anything in the bottom. It's completely mixed with the sample. So that tells me then that this mixed fuel is got ethanol in it because it's completely dissolved the red all through the whole fuel sample. So let's go with the same situation here. Let's take our mixed and let's put 2.5%, which is half of the amount that ruins the fuel in. And sorry, we need, let's see, 4 or 5, 2 milliliters. Okay, so we're at 2 milliliters. So let's put that in this sample. Okay, now This will end up the same way as, you see how it goes cloudy? See, it's cloudy already. So we know right away there's water in that. So took that sample of fuel and shake it up. Nothing more than just looking at it, and we can see that it's not right. It's got some amount of water in it. So let's use again the red on this because it will just turn out more visual. So there's our 1 drop of red. Get the lid on. Turns a nice purple color. It's through the whole sample. Oh, no, it isn't. It's starting to change. Whoops. I don't know if the color change is the greatest, but it's starting to settle out in the bottom here into red. So we see the red in the bottom. And I don't know, it's kind of a purpley color in here. But we can definitely see the difference in it. I mean, if you let this sit for a few minutes, you'd see it more. But we can definitely see now that the red drop mixed with the ethanol and water combo in the bottom there. And that's how that fuel sample is. So let's take another fuel sample that's completely contaminated with water, which would mean at least 5% by volume, which would be, okay, 4 milliliters of water. So here's a saturated sample of E10 fuel. Let me get the lid on. You got to do them up really tight. Apparently these jars weren't made for gasoline. Okay. And again, we see, does it have water? I consider it yes, for sure, because it's cloudy. Right? It's cloudy as could be. Now, let's put 1 drop of red in here because we're using it with the blue premix. 1 drop. And give it a shake. Okay. And what are we seeing right here? Well, we're seeing that separation of color on the top to the color on the bottom. And whoa, look at how quick that is. We can see the water in there. So the amount of water that's in there is combined with the drop. And we can easily see that. So that's why for E10 that's not mixed, that's why I use the yellow on that. And for E10 that's mixed 50-1 or has any kind of oil in it, that's when I'm using the red for that. So to recap, I think this is a really simple way to find out whether we have ethanol in our fuel or not. So this is our, remember, this is our neat sample, what I call neat or no ethanol gasoline. And remember, we use the red drop in it, and it's all formulated back together, and it's that 1 little drop is right there. It didn't mix with the fuel at all because there's no ethanol in the fuel to mix with. So to me, that's an indicator this is just straight, neat, whatever you want to call it, non-ethanol fuel. Now with our E10 sample, when I use the red in it, then it's through the whole sample. Okay, you should be able to see that there's nothing in the bottom. There's no water layer in there at all. It's through the whole sample. That 1 drop went everywhere. So that tells me that that has ethanol in it. How much? Well, if I really want to know, I can use my ethanol tester and find out how much percentage it actually is. So you could always do that. These things are getting pretty expensive now. Now, you waited through the whole video, watched, I don't know, maybe some of you figured out what this is. What is my yellow and red drops? It's food coloring. You might have some at home. You can buy it at the store. A very inexpensive way for anybody to test the fuel. And working with known samples like this, the results, it's very obvious. Doesn't mix, does mix ethanol. So it's quite a simple graphic test. Now, if you're still buying, this is the result you get, well, keep buying from the same place for as long as you can, because I'm sure it's going to come to an end one day. As I said before, I consider it all to have ethanol in it until proven otherwise, and we can do it this way. It's very, very simple, and it's something that you can do yourself. If you know your other pilots and maybe they got fiberglass fuel tanks, this is going to be an issue. It's been an issue. We're way behind the scheme of things here, because I've been recommending for everyone for years and years to use 91, pay the extra money because it's neat fuel, no ethanol. Well, that's not the case anymore. So in my 582, I just buy 87 for it now, because I'm still getting 10% ethanol. Well, that's the way it is around here where I get my fuel from. Why pay the extra money? I can't pay the extra money and buy ethanol-free gas as 91 anymore. So spread the word. This is going to be important for sure. You might want to refer back to that video that I had from the UPAC conference, and I'm speaking a lot in there about so you need to remember the Rotax engine will run on 10% ethanol, no problem. You have to get it from the gas cap to the engine. So we got to watch our fuel lines. We have to watch the rubber seal on our gas cap. And we have to watch, especially if you've got a fiberglass fuel tank, it's going to eat it, I'm sure. So it's better to deal with these things first than later when you have to buy a fuel tank and repair your engine. And so anyway, on that sad note, thanks so much for tuning in today. I really appreciate the time that you spent with me. Hopefully this will come in handy and help out somebody somewhere. All right, thanks. See you again. Bye now.